All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back with another episode of our Don't Starve Together guide. Last time we made it to day 22, and today we're going to try to get you even further closer to your first fight in Don't Starve Together. That is by a boss known as Deerclops. So as we continue our adventure, we now have a few log suits for armor. We have extra things for healing. We have a hammer. We have a few other items that are going to become very crucial very soon. But first, we're going to start on kind of introducing a few things. So we need to get a few resources to help us get further on our way. And then that is going to be first up on the list. We're going to kind of take two separate trips, I think, here. We got to look on our map here real quick, and we're looking for a lot of ice. So there's a few ways of getting ice. So sometimes you're going to see in your map where ice will just appear, and the way that ice appears is by doing this. I believe we might have showed you in the previous video. I'm not too sure if we did or not, but what you need to do is if you want ice to spawn near you and not completely random, you're going to want to walk near the edge of the water. So continuing to walk near the edge of the water will promote pangolins to spawn out of the water, also known as, like, you know, they look like they're little penguins, but they're called pangolins. So generally, you're going to find that these things will spawn randomly when you're walking across the map on the edge. But if you want them to be closer to your base, the best thing that you can do is walk on the side to promote more and more to spawn. There is a limited number of them, so keep in mind that, you know, the more you decide to do this, there's only a limited amount of resources for them to kind of jump out of the water and appear in an area. So, you know, once you have maybe 2 or 3 of these, it's probably enough to kind of leave until another time when it becomes, you know, next year winter, then you can kind of do it once more. But it's not like they will appear multiple times and continue to kind of like run your area with ice. So in the morning we can kind of do that, but while it's nighttime, considering there we go. See, so we just got the pangolins, and the best thing to do is let the pangolins show you where to go. Pangolins are a great source of obviously ice, but they're also a great source of 2 other things. A great source of eggs, which you can steal from them if you're lucky, and a great source of meat as well too. But today we're only going to be using them for ice. So we managed to get it. Once again, when you begin your run, press the F4 button. I don't know if I mentioned that in a previous video or not, but pressing the F4 button will trigger what is called auto pickup. So if you're using, if you enjoy having auto pickup in the game, that way your character decides to, you know, grab the items after they drop, you can use that as well too. But if you're using certain mods, you know, you might not be able to use that as well. Now, if you're playing Wilson, like I am, your beard is now fully grown, so it's good to keep this through the rest of the winter. And then when we get around to springtime, when we're kind of a few days after spring, we'll kind of decide what to do with it there. So if you're obviously near berry bushes that need to be picking, you can grab them as well too. But I always encourage to leave carrots and extra berries alone unless you absolutely need them for food, because we have ice, and ice completely replaces berries. So once again, we're going to be talking about easy recipes, and in order to get yourself through winter, easiest recipe once again is the meatballs. And if you guys forgot the recipe, it's 1 monster meat and 3 pieces of ice. But today we're going to be keeping the ice for a total different reason, and we're going to be working towards an item that is going to protect our base from fires come summertime. Not something that you necessarily have to worry about this second, but sooner or later you're going to need to get it up. So I would think that the best time to do so and show you guys it is during winter, when we have a little bit of downtime. During the days in winter, you're going to find the nights become very, very long and almost boring, to the point where you're basically going back to your base, working in your base, collecting resources, and just kind of preparing yourself for the Deerclops, which is kind of what winter is all about. And Don't Starve Together, it's about going around, getting resources, then coming back when you need to either fight a boss or you need to venture off a little bit further. And that's why thermal stones are so useful, because without a thermal stone, you're not going to be able to venture too far. So you're always going to want to make sure that you have one. And so once again, we made ourselves a few. I normally play with a mod called no thermal stone durability, but for the sake of not using mods right now, just make sure that you always have enough resources left over. 1 thermal stone should last you the entire winter, and you might have to make another one after that as well too. But because we're at our base, we're going to do a few things real quick. We have a little bit left of our darkness, and we have 7 days until the Deerclops shows up. Deerclops will show up on day 30 unless you have a very lucky world where it shows up on day 31. There is a rare occurrence that a Deerclops will miss the season and not actually spawn, but that is a very rare occurrence, and that usually generally only happens if you have a series of mods installed and Don't Starve Together. So I'm going to do a few things here real fast. We're going to look to see if we have any gold and see if we have any gold available. And we do not. So we don't have any gold, so unfortunately we're going to have to hold out on one of the things that I wanted to show you, which was the Fling-O-Matic. For that, we definitely need to have gold available. So we're going to hold out on that until further notice, because all of our gold is all the way on the bottom right corner. But there's also a few other things in the bottom right corner that we want to show as well too. So in the morning, as soon as it gets nice out in daytime, we're going to go and chop down a few more trees and get our area ready, which if you remember correctly from last stream, we were making our area for the deer clops. So we made it over in the far left corner away from our base, so that way when the deer clop shows up, we are able to fight it. That's not at our base, so it doesn't destroy everything we've worked so hard for. So with our thermal stone at full capacity, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna chop a bunch of trees. Now, because it's winter, you might have what just happened to me, where you're chopping a tree and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it randomly just disappears like that. That's just because the tree is going through a cycle of wilting. So with the Show Me mod enabled, when the tree fully grows, it goes back to its twig form, which you can kind of tell that you didn't get any resources from. The only thing you can get it from is from digging at the stumps. So obviously if that happens to you, it's just a normal part of the cycle of the trees and don't starve together. So we're going to get ourselves a lot of logs. We're also going to get ourselves a lot of pine cones, and we're going to start collecting the pine cones as well too. So we got ice, we're cutting down, getting logs, and then we're going to get 2 ingredients that are really going to help us, and that's going to be on our way over to a special area on the map that I kind of went over when the game first started, and that's to get ourselves some cactus. Now, I don't know if I went over it too many times, but insanity, making sure that your sanity levels are really high when you're fighting the deer clops is extremely important and cannot be stressed enough. You're going to find yourself in a predicament if you're fighting the deer clops and you're noticing that your sanity is starting to go really low, because you're going to start to be attacked by other creatures as well too, which if you've already gone insane once following these guides, you already know that there's something called the shadow creatures. Now, the shadow creatures come in 2 forms. There's a regular shadow creature, and then there's a terrorbeak, and terrorbeaks are a lot faster and a lot harder to avoid. So when you're fighting the deer clops, you're going to want to make sure you have a little bit of sanity, and the best thing for that is definitely getting yourself some cactus and keeping that in your inventory until you need to use it. So we don't really need too many log suits, but I'm going to kind of overdo it a little bit because I think that for you guys, it would be wise to get as much logs as you can. So we'll spend an entire day on 23 just chopping, and then come nighttime, we can sort through and you know, use our grass accordingly. Now, wintertime is very bad for grass. You're going to notice that there's not that much available, obviously. Twigs will still grow in winter, but it's not as abundant, obviously. So we have our twigs here. They're all good, but unfortunately, our grass tufts were not planted in time and not able to grow in time either. So we have our logs, which we're going to combine with the rest of our logs now. We have almost 3 full stacks. We still have our extra logs that we're always keeping on us, and we have our pine cones. So now that we have our pine cones, we'll wait until later on to plant them, and I'll show you why as well too. But we have our logs. We have extra logs just in case we need even more, and we're going to leave these here for now. Next thing we're going to go do is we're going to go get ourselves what we need from the D-Fly Desert. Now, I think it'd probably be a good idea if we just hold off a few seconds and warm up our thermal stones one last time before they decide to break. One thing I'm going to always suggest that you guys try to do, which I actually haven't done myself, is remember, anything that's in your backpack is what you want to get. So you want to get yourselves some more inventory, some more items that are in your inventory, and you want to remind yourself, put it in your backpack. We need more rocks, we need more healing, we possibly need more papyrus, and we want to make sure that we plant our pine cones. So anything that's in your backpack, and I should be putting the grass in there, we need to have. But luckily, before the winter started, we made sure that we went around and picked a ton of grass. And grass is extremely important in completing our armor. So while it's nighttime and our thermal stones are getting nice and toasty, I'm going to head over to where we're going to be fighting our deer clops, which is over to our left here. And let's head on over. So while we're going, you can decide if you want to begin to craft a few things before, or once you get there, it doesn't really matter. But we already have our pre-crafted log suit. So once we get there, we'll put some more stuff inside of the chest. And I'm thinking Ideally, like for me, I always like to overdo it when we're fighting bosses. I mean, normally nowadays I can fight the Deerclops with little to no armor, but just to be safe and on the safe side, I'm going to try to say that let's make 6 to 8 armor if we can. So first, the hardest thing is crafting yourself a ton of rope. So that's why that 40 stack of grass came in. If you don't want to do this, if you think, well, I don't have enough grass for this, or if you're playing a different character altogether, just be somewhat limited with your grass, because you're going to want to make sure that you keep some left over, and you don't want to make sure that you don't use them all at the same time. So we still have 16 grass, plus we have the 40 that's there, and we have the 5 suits, plus we have the extra suit that's in our inventory. I think that's more than enough. But just to be certain, because you never know, I'm going to leave a little bit of logs here, and I'm going to make some more just in case. So rather than actually making these, I'm going to leave a little bit of logs, and I'm going to leave a little bit of rope. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing that. I don't want to pre-craft the log suits just yet, because if I do craft the wood suit or the log suit, and for example, the Deerclops comes over and smashes up my little area that I made over here, I'm going to need to create myself another fire pit. And as I said before, always pre-crafting things is your best friend. So just as I reminded myself that, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pre-craft myself a campfire, which is a basic campfire. And when I get enough rocks, I'm going to remind myself to pre-craft a entire fire pit itself as well too. So that's why it's always good to, rather than just craft like crazy, maybe leave yourself a little bit of resources there just in case you need it. Okay, so we're back at home. Our meatballs are nice and cooked, thanks to Kiri. And we're going to once again use the rest of the grass that we have. Now, we don't want to take all of them, because we always want to leave ourselves with an emergency amount, but we have enough. We have a decent amount of twigs that we could probably fill as well too. And now we're on to day 24. Time is kind of working against us at this point. Before we know it, it's going to be day 30. So let's spend a little bit extra time tomorrow and make sure that we wander over to where we need to go. Our thermal stone is really bad right now. We really need to get some rocks. So in the morning, we'll head over, and we're looking to see if there's any portals maybe close by that might be able to bring us there. Because on our map, we notice, once again, if we're using our wormhole marker mod, that there's a blue portal here. Blue portal, so if you go here, it goes to here. The pink portal travels over to here, and the red portal travels over to here. But there's one portal, if you see, that leads right here. So if we go through that portal, we can end up right at the D-Fly, like the D-Fly desert, which is exactly where we want to be. So let's look on the map to see if we found any that are close by before we run all the way over there. And let's look around to see if we can notice it. Unfortunately, we're not finding it, so we might actually have to walk all the way over. But keep in mind, we're only looking for rocks, and we're only looking for cactus, but we're also going to be looking for a new, not necessarily a boss, but a character that is going to come very known with this guide, because we might need his little special thing that he drops. So we'll talk about that when the time comes. But I also want to make sure that we fill up our miner hat. So take your leftover, if you have any fireflies, grab it. Make sure if you have any fireflies that are around your base before the night runs out, run out there real fast and try to catch yourself some extra fireflies. You should have a few uses left in your bug net if you already didn't actually use it to the full potential. See if we can catch any. Now, if you want to find a ton of fireflies, you're gonna want to go to a different area, which is kind of with like the red, orange sort of like ground, also known as a deciduous, and so that is where you're gonna find. That's where you're going to find a lot of the fireflies, but unfortunately tonight we didn't do it. Okay, so let's head over as fast as we can. Let's even leave the bug net just in case we get there, because there's always a ton of fireflies in the oasis. And Kiri's already all the way over, so we got to try to catch up as much as we can. Let's go. So we're going to have a long trek ahead of us, but it's okay because we pre-crafted ourselves a campfire. And we can pre-craft even more campfires if we need to keep ourselves warm. Our thermal stone is still at 25%, but it's running a little bit low, and we're not necessarily running low on time, but and we're going to grab ourselves one meatball, and let's see how much we got. 150, so we'll wait a little bit before we eat it. So as we continue to go on, there's a few things that we're going to be starting to learn here in a second. And that is, once again, cooking cactus to get sanity so that way you can eat it periodically. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to want to be sitting in front of the deer clops when your sanity begins to go down. You're only going to want to be eating it when you're kind of in the middle of battle, but run away, eat real fast. And that's why cactus is so good. When you eat items in this game, it takes a few seconds to eat. So I'll show you real fast. For example, meatballs, boom, you eat it. Your character has to go through a small animation before he or she finishes eating. Now, the problem is that with a lot of items, there are certain items in this game that take a while to actually go through and complete like the animation. So cactus, in eating cactus is one of the fastest that you can use for getting sanity. So ideally, like that is your way out of having an item that you can eat extremely quickly. And still regain your sanity while still in a fight. So that's why cooking cactus, even cooking green caps, but that's kind of going further down the road, is also a good resource as well too. But because green caps is underground and cactus is above ground, it's so much easier for us to kind of just talk a little bit about cactus. Obviously, we're walking past a bunch of resources. So if you decide, hey, you know what, I am low in grass, I wouldn't mind getting some, you know, feel free to grab it. Now, while we're walking around, though, you might see things like cut reeds. You might see things like seeds. Grab them. Grab as many seeds and cut reeds as you can until you have the amount that I have in my inventory, which is like, 15 or so. It's always good to get extra if you really need to. And we're going to show you in the next episode as to why it's so crucial for us to get that. And that, once again, is to get yourself a bird cage. Now, the problem is, though, we do need to get some gold. We do still need to get some more resources. But getting ourselves a bird cage is going to be one of the best things that we're going to get before the deer clop shows up. So ideally, don't rush around to get these things. Spend some time to just, learn the layout of the map. Try to get yourself enough resources to at least get yourself to the deer clops, and then worry about it at that time.
Thanks again for watching this video. See you in the next one.